Okay.
Andrew Little, welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
Thanks for being here.
appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So just as
Yeah, it's
a
gonna be tons of fun.
just for the listener, my goal, I kind of wanted to outline this a little bit and then we'll jump in. But my goal here, kind of pick your brain on how you started in real estate, what you're building right now, and then kind of see if we can get into some of the action steps maybe that people can take if they're interested in getting into real estate as well. Sound good?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's dive in.
All right. So before we get into maybe how you started in real estate, what was the reason? What was your why for getting into real estate?
Well, it's kind of multifold. My wife and I run several businesses, and it's one of those things that we don't want to do that forever. And we watch too many people that kind of the joke of you never wait until you're geriatric to travel because you fall asleep everywhere, And so we want to enjoy life and protect our assets and make our money work for you. Everybody talks about that as if you really want to make money, you work for yourself and you find a way to make money in your sleep. And real estate seems to be where a lot of that goes.
Hmm. Making money in
So
your
kind of
sleep.
a no-brainer.
That's the dream, right? Literally.
Right? Absolutely. That's what everybody else says, right?
Yeah.
So we're giving it a shot.
As far as family goes, that's one of the lenses that we approach a lot of this from is how do we better the lives of us and our families? Was that a part of the consideration for you? It sounds like that was kind of one of the main things that you were thinking about.
Absolutely was. I mean, my wife and I had our kiddo later. We have one son. He's 4.5 now, but we waited a little bit later in life. I was 35 and we had our kid, and the realization that I'll be in my 50s when he's when he's getting his diploma in high school. We want to make sure we're in a position where we can go to all the soccer games and we're not really fighting paycheck to paycheck, and we want to give him the opportunities to really thrive in life and
Yeah.
do that. And making residual and passive income is a great way to do that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, we've talked about this before, but the idea of trading your time for money versus
Sure.
I love the idea of passive income. When
Right.
you're not trading time for money. Talk me through what motivation. It seems obvious. Are there any other pieces that I might be missing as far as the way I think through that is? Why would you not want more passive income? Are you approaching it from a similar perspective of, hey, let's build as much passively as we can for that time freedom element?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, Tim Ferriss, brings up the 4-hour work week. And then there's the term of, I guess, the new rich. I'm not sure if that's a Tim Ferriss coined phrase or not, but the new rich of they make just enough money to support their lifestyle wherever they want, how they want. And there's guys in their 20s that are, in the top 100 Forbes lists and all sorts of stuff as millionaires. And they're all over the world doing crazy stuff. And I think the days of working a really good job and making sure you've got a pension and squirreling a little bit of money away doesn't really cut it anymore.
Unfortunately,
And so I
right?
think, yeah, right, yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's whole other rabbit holes on whether or not that's by design or not, but I think having the ability to control your money and have it work for you is what everybody dreams about.
I want to say the Join the New Rich was the subtitle of 4-Hour Work Week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
how to quit your job and join the new rich. I think that's that's just a guess,
yep.
but I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
So,
because in the beginning of his book, he talks about laying on the beach and he's on, the Forbes top millionaires, and he's like, "Well, I'm miserable," and so
yeah, right.
and he's like, "Well, I got to get out of here and do this." So,
which is an interesting. I mean, the misery part of that is an interesting aspect too. Of if the goal is passive income and time spent with family, there's an element there of, it's going to take some hard work, but if the point is time with your family, make sure to prioritize that as well. Have you found that to be
absolutely
a challenge in this whole thing with real estate or otherwise?
it really is. I have the really horrible problem of never doing anything small, and so if I'm going to do something, it's usually kind of not even burning the candle at both ends, but kind of taking the blowtorch to the middle as well. And so we started our real estate investing not that long ago, and we've made some great strides and opened 3 other businesses since we started investing in real estate. And so I think once the bug is there, you realize that you can kind of compound on that and leverage, and then you can really accelerate your timetables pretty quickly. And so
That's a life changer.
yeah, but it's also, it hurts with the work-life balance. I'm a night owl. My wife's a morning person, and she's up at 4, and I go to bed at 3. So we we spend quite a bit of time together during the day, and eating meals with our kiddo and having fun and doing education. But there's lots of holding your finger up real quick and excusing yourself to answer a phone call, or put out a fire or answer an email.
Hmm.
But you're still collectively at the end of the day spending a ton of time together as a family, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It seems like I want to circle back to work-life balance because there's a lot there. And
Sure.
so as we get past some of these initial details, I want to get into some of the how do we start in real estate, because that some of that is
Absolutely.
is kind of like, all right, now that we built something, maybe that's a problem we get to down the road. Not
Right.
not to disregard it. It's certainly an important piece, but kind of circling back to how did you start? I'm curious, what did that look like for you guys? What was the first, let's say, real estate investment you made?
We found ourselves in probably 2015 is kind of what started it all. So my wife and I were both working in downtown Salt Lake City, and we worked, well, I guess we lived only about 15, 20 miles away from South Salt Lake City, but during peak rush hour times, it was taking us an hour and a half of drive time each way. And I did the math, just quick napkin math, right? Everybody jokes about napkin math, but we got back 28 days, 28, 24-hour periods in a year by just not driving downtown to Salt Lake 5 days a week. And so you
Wow.
think about then 28 days a year split into 8 hours a workday. That's a whole lot of drive time. And so what she was doing at the time was contracting for the government, testifying in Social Security hearings. And they said, if you lived 17 miles further away, we would let you remote in. And so we decided to kind of call their bet and move 170 miles away instead of 17. And we bought a ranch in southeast Idaho and made a go of that. And during the middle of COVID, prices just really started to go crazy, and we sold the ranch and bought a better house and a better education system for our son. And we found ourselves in a situation where, in the period of 6 months, we watched the value of our home go up almost $200,000, and interest rates were 2%. And so we initially did a cash out refinance on our primary residence, and we were able to pull enough money out of that primary residence to put a down payment on a fourplex. And that really kind of lit the light bulb for me, I guess, or turn the lights
Yeah.
on that you can really leverage other people's money and really make a go of that.
Hmm.
If you do it responsibly, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So would you say that's kind of the method that you've been following? Then I mean, I certainly, I'm not the real estate expert at all. This is something I'm looking to get into, but I hear of,
Right?
the buy, what BRRR, I think it's buy, refi, or refinance. Talk me through that. What are the different
Yeah.
methods that are out there?
There's a lot. You can kind of buy into some of these big investment groups where you bring whatever money you have and they pool all that together and they purchase an asset, and then you become a partner in that. You have the Burr method, which is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and then
There.
repeat. And so it's kind of
Yep.
your lather, and repeat. So you buy a very destitute property, and the kicker with that is you have to buy that with cash. You re you rehab it with cash, then you basically turn it into an asset by getting a renter in there. And then the very first time a bank gets involved, the very first time an appraiser gets involved, is when that unit is completely rehabbed. And a lot of people run into issues with that when they get a loan on something and then do a little bit of work on it real quick, not necessarily try and flip it, but the buy and hold, but where you also work on it, is you have an appraiser that has conflicting reports. Is 6 months ago a property appraised for, say, $200,000, but you've put $100,000 into it, it should appraise for 400, but he is trying to prevent another 2008 in his mind, and so he's like, I just can't give it to you, and so you get a really low appraisal and you can't get your money back out. So the
Mm.
Burr method allows you to eliminate all of that, and then the first time somebody sets eyes on it, it's pretty pristine, and it shows a profitability that's articulatable. And so
Mm.
there's a lot to that method. You've got other people's money where you can really leverage on your money. You can get hard money loans. There's a ton out there.
So what would you say you follow, or are you kind of mixing and matching a few of those?
We're kind of doing, I guess, a mix and match of both. We're
Okay.
mainly a buy and hold. We're in a really unique situation where I have some residual income from some injuries in the military that allow me to get better interest rates on loans through the VA. And then my wife makes pretty good money. She's an expert witness on court cases, and so she makes the equivalent of basically what a lawyer would make. And so our income is high, and it allows us to make some gambles that we know the money is replaceable. Um,
Sure.
much faster than a normal person that's working a 9 to 5 job. And so we take some pretty strong gambles, but we do a modification of Burr and buy and hold. So we'll buy something that needs to be fixed up, and I have a background in construction. I can pretty much build anything that I put my hands on, and so we'll buy something, rehab it quite a bit, get our use out of it, or get renters into it, and then a year or two down the road, we'll look at refinancing that and pulling some of that money back out.
And then I assume the goal would be then to take that refi money, apply that to the next property, rinse, repeat.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So you
Yeah, and
mentioned
that's kind of where you.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
By all means, no, go ahead.
You mentioned, okay, so you said you guys are in a pretty solid state financially where you can take some of these gambles. Are either of those methods, whether they the Burr method or using other people's money, are there pros and cons for someone in a different situation? Let's say someone isn't in the same situation you are. Maybe they have less capital to work with. Would
Sure.
you suggest one versus the other based on that?
Yeah, I have a good friend right now that just liquidated a house in Utah, and unfortunately, he's separating himself in a marriage that's obviously ended in divorce. But he's able to walk away from that with a little over $100,000 in cash. That's not taxable, and so we're really kind of looking at some different options for him to kind of house hack. And what
Mm,
what that is, that term was kind of coined where you either buy a duplex or you buy a single family home, but then you supplement what you've purchased by renting out a couple of rooms, or you rent out a basement, or you rent out one side of your duplex or two of the units in a triplex type thing. And that's really what he's looking at doing. He's actually looking more so at purchasing a home with a little bit of commercial property next to it. And he wants to break away from a 9 to 5 and do his own thing in the commercial space.
okay. Okay. House hacking. This is one of those tips and tricks that I hear, right? But and basically
Yeah,
you gave a very general overview, but can you get into more details with why that's an advantage if you live in one spot, like if it's a duplex, fourplex, whatever, you live in one
sure,
part, rent out the others. How does that advantage someone
sure.
versus just renting it all out?
Right. So the cool thing with purchasing a primary residence is you're able to either sell that or do some really interesting tax advantages with your primary residence. If you're married, you're able to sell a primary residence and make $500,000 and not have that be taxable. At the same time, earning money and depreciating it, treating that like a commercial asset. And so there's a lot of benefits to getting a residential loan that you might not have to do PMI on. You get a much lower interest rate. You have some other government, not necessarily subsidies, but there's some advantages of making something either your first purchase or your primary residence purchase, and then you offset your costs by renting that out or subletting it.
Yeah. So is the goal as you evaluate, is this a good purchase? Should we buy this next property? Is your primary goal cash flow, or is there another piece that you're looking at? What are the pieces that you're weighing there?
Sure. For us, and because we're in a unique situation, we're not necessarily reliant on the money immediately. It's more of a long
Right.
term thing. Is 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when we transition from one and step away from one and the other takes its place, that's when cash flow is going to be something that we really look to as being a benchmark before we can make some paradigm shifts in life. Um, but our main goal right now is just well, asset protection more than anything, and slow and steady wealth as well as the tax benefits of
So
owning
tax
commercial
benefits
real
and then
estate.
kind of a buy and hold, more of a buy and hold as
Yep,
you mentioned. Okay, makes
absolutely,
sense.
yeah,
And then
yeah. I think with buy and hold, there's just too many benefits to buy and hold between
yeah,
depreciation and phantom deductions, and no matter how you structure it legally and who holds the title to that, all of it is considered passive income when it comes to taxes. And you have a ton of benefits, and you can really whittle away at a higher income earning job by having some rental real estate. And that's what we're looking for right now, is maximizing those tax deductions and offsetting the income that we do have, at the same time securing some long-term wealth that'll keep keep the money rolling in.
Right, right. So, okay, I love this. Passive income. Tell me about the tax situation versus from passive income versus standard W 2 income. What's the difference?
Sure, you have so many more deductions. You can have, everybody talks about having a car under a business or something like that, and having meals, and all of those are very legitimate and legal things to do. With a home, you can actually purchase a home that's going to accrue in value, but also on paper at the same time, it's actually going to depreciate in value. And the way the IRS and the government looks at it is a residential property, commercial is a little bit different. You've got 27 and a half years, and that building itself, the land, they look at land differently, but the bricks and sticks of the structure has depreciated in value to the point where it's not worth anything. And so you get to offset 3.63 something percent of the value of that gets to come right off the top of your taxes. And so that really helps when it comes to not just one property, but by the time you get to three or four, you've got quite a bit of income that is coming off the top that you don't even. It's considered a phantom deduction. It's not real money that you're losing anywhere except for on paper.
And I've heard that eventually, do you have to pay part of that back eventually? How does that work? Or
You
is it
can. So they
it's
have
gone?
like a capital gains recapture. So if you sell that property and
Uh-huh.
it's gained you some sort of benefit to outside of a primary residence or outside of um, using it for yourself, you have to recapture some of that. And there's complicated formulas, and that's way into the well-paid CPA territory
Right.
for sure.
Okay, so we kind of talked about how you started. What does your portfolio currently
Yeah,
look like? And if I may, what do you hope to get to? What's
sure.
the goal with all this for you and your family?
Sure. And I think that's probably kind of where my wife and I are not necessarily at a stalemate, because we agree a whole lot on making money. It's one of the, not that we fight a lot, but I mean everybody has strife, I guess, in their marriage, or things that they don't agree on, right? But my wife and
That's
I are
part of the
fortunate
fun,
enough
right?
to very much so, right? Absolutely, that's why everybody should do it. But I think that we agree very much so on sacrificing in the short term to make sure that the long term looks good. And so, like I talked about, we purchased a nicer home than in a better education system, and then we did the cash out refinance on that. So that's our primary residence. We used it was primary residence at the time. I apologize. We used that money to buy a fourplex of apartments in Idaho, down the street from our house, and then we ended up purchasing a second home in Las Vegas. That's a single family residence that we were planning on keeping as a second home or vacation home, and realized the tax benefits of that, and how much we like the warm weather. And so we made that our primary residence, actually taking up residency in Nevada, which has a ton of other benefits on top of just the nice weather all the time. So there's that. And then most recently, we've purchased two single family homes in the Little Rock, Arkansas area. So right now we've got four single family homes and a fourplex of four doors. So technically eight doors, but we own five structures.
Beautiful. And are
Yeah,
those all rented out long term, short term? How do you approach that aspect of who you're renting to and why?
sure. We've kind of taken a different approach with everything. Is the apartments? They're just the nature of apartments. You have a little bit higher of a turnover. Single family homes tend to have renters and stay a little bit longer, because they not necessarily tend to entrench themselves, but they make it a little bit more home. When you're staying in an apartment, you very much so realize that that's either a short term thing or you're stuck, and either way, you don't plan on being there long, and so you have a little bit higher turnover. A single family home, there's a lot of people that just don't ever purchase a home, and they don't see the value in it. So you get a single family home, and people start to take some pride in the backyard, or they do little things and they make it a home, and they tend to stay a little bit longer. Ours is kind of unique. We take some pretty big gambles, and our home in Las Vegas, that's our primary home. We Clark County, Nevada has really changed the way you view short term rentals and things like that. And so we've actually looked at doing Airbnb type thing with that when we travel in the summertime when it's a little too warm for our taste, and it's turned out very well. Way better than we ever could have thought. And so I don't know if that's beginner's luck or not, but I certainly won't turn it down.
Right. Yeah. A little too warm in Vegas as I'm sweating out here in my garage. Just for those of you watching this,
Yeah,
if you see
exactly. Yeah,
the beads of sweat, I'm enjoying that heat.
yeah. I don't know.
So
I'm in Salt Lake right now, and it's 96, but I'm sitting in front of an AC, and I'm still warm. So I don't envy you at all.
that's that's part of the fun, man.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Man, this is good stuff. So one of the things that makes me think of, I know Las Vegas, you mentioned Las Vegas, and just kind of as I survey the real estate market here, and some of the, obviously casinos drive a big piece of our
Right.
business. I don't know the backstory behind this, but I do know Clark County has kind of said, hey, no more short-term rentals under 30 days.
Right.
How, I mean, I know that there's some grandfathering involved with that. When you're looking at decisions of, hey, we're going to buy this house here, you mentioned, homes in Arkansas. What sorts of things are you looking at to determine where to buy a home? What kind of rental it's going to be? Talk me through that.
Sure. And there's a couple of great books. There's Long Distance Real Estate, or out of state long distance real estate investing. I think it's Mike Burke. I can get you a list of a couple of books that I've read that really kind of lit the fire for me and took away not necessarily the fear, but the unknowns of venturing off. And because the two homes in Arkansas we own, I've never seen them. I have no idea if they exist or not. There could be some gigantic ruse, and I'm being taken for it all. But I know that
somebody's
I've
paying
seen
you though,
videos
right?
of them. Yeah, there's money
Yeah.
coming in. I know that I talked with a realtor that did a FaceTime video when I saw it. I see pictures that match what the realtor showed me when a contractor does work on it. So somebody believes it's there, and I'm one of those people. So
The
it
magic of the
when we
internet.
right, yeah, which is so cool, and I think COVID has really accelerated a lot of that where this type of podcast environment wasn't possible. There's guys, Joe Rogan, and the really kind of the OGs of the podcast world. They've always done stuff in person, but now since COVID, this is so much more accepted. This digital kind of back and forth and two-way street is it's not the old people that are insisting on writing a check for their groceries anymore. You know what I mean? And so it's really accelerated the plans and the acceptance of that, I think.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to need to get a book list, and we'll put that in the show notes from
Yeah,
you, because
absolutely.
I know you've got some great resources to mention here. So
Yeah,
as
I'll shoot it over
as you
to you
kind
in
of
an
look
email.
back, and yeah, perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. As you look back, so I know you've mentioned this hasn't been a long journey yet, but you guys have
Yeah.
made some great moves. If you could talk to yourself at the beginning of that journey, basically, what are the things you would do differently? What are some of the mistakes that you've made, and what would you do differently the next time around?
Holy cow. I think I would try and chase myself down with a stick if I ever tried to sell a real piece of property again. I look back of my deployment to Afghanistan in 2012, that I got home in 2013. I purchased a home just after that, and it's in Magna, Utah. And at the time, I purchased a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with an unfinished basement on a great little lot, had mature fruit trees, had everything. I purchased that house for $169,900. So I think after it was all said and done, closing costs was 172 grand. And I looked just before we jumped on, because that was one of the questions you gave me before. And I looked at the Zillow estimate of that house, and it's $497,000 right now. And so it's actually decreased in value $12,000 in the last 30 days. So to go from 169,000 to selling it a couple years later and making 20, 30,000 and thinking I made out like a bandit. I thought I was running and skipping away from the bank before they tell me they needed their money back. I look back at that now, and the ways that I could have leveraged that is not only the equity I could have had in that house, but I could have refinanced that house 2 or 3 times at this point, finished the basement, really capitalized on that, and then had the rental income for the last 9 years. I kicked myself. I don't think that I would, if I could go back right now, I would never ever sell a real piece of property again. I don't think, short of some natural disasters or something major catastrophic happening. I think long term, if you have the ability to hold on to it, I would never sell a house again.
I love
So
that. So
yeah,
I wrote down start earlier and don't sell.
yeah,
Hang on to it. Is that
yeah,
is that a fair
yeah.
summary?
Absolutely. Yep. And yeah, I mean, one of the only other mistakes that it worked out fine for us, but it's one of the risks with the flipper methodology is you're playing hot potato with a lot of money, and it's pretty quick. And
Hmm.
before you know it, man, the music stops and musical chairs, and somebody's going to lose. And so we leveraged our personal home up to 90% of its appraised value, and since then it's gone up, which is good. It's covered that, and it's far exceeded what we re-leveraged that house for. But going back now, I don't think I would feel comfortable leveraging my primary residence more than 50 or 60%, because if for some reason the worst case scenario were to happen, uh, you could walk away from that house and get out clean, I guess, and you wouldn't have to. And if you did lose some money, you wouldn't lose much. But I certainly don't
Yeah.
want to be stuck holding on to something, selling it for 500 when my loan is 8. You know, that hurts. That
Right.
hurts really bad.
Yeah. Okay, talk me through this on a, explain this to me like I'm
Yeah,
5 level here. So you've mentioned the idea of leverage a few
sure.
times, and that's something that's a term that's relatively new to me in the last couple of years of trying to kind of walk my way through this financial game of how do we win the financial game, and using other people's money, and that idea from Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor
Right,
Dad, that was, buy assets, use other people's money if you
right.
can, leverage. How do you think about that when you're approaching real estate? What are some of the goals or targets you have with
Sure.
leverage?
Yeah, and
How do you approach that? Maybe that's a better way to
yeah,
say
and
that.
so I mean, one of the questions you sent over, which was really great, is how do you what do you try and offer a little bit more as a down payment and mitigate your risk and do that. And it's something that for us, we talked with our financial advisor, and then we talked with the guy that does most of our single family homes and things like that, our real property loans. And he mentioned that buying down, so offering 25% down, is what we've typically done. And we haven't done anything where we've brought other people in and partners or anything like that. We've used all of our own money, and that's something that I think, as I gain confidence in the methodology that I'm kind of building, that's something that we'll absolutely explore on top of the Burr method and things like that. But for us, 25% allows us to really maximize the lowest percentage that we can. So we're buying down some points. What that also does is it gives you an additional amount that same year when you purchase those points down. It gives you an immediate tax deduction the next year on your taxes. And so say you go another $7,000 down, it goes from 20 to 25%. That extra $7,000 is actually going to come off of the back end. You're going to get some tax
Hmm.
documents, and the CPA is going to be able to use that. So you spend a little bit, but then it immediately offsets what's there. So you spend the money, but it's an immediate deduction there. And then you obviously avoid PMI, which is absolutely ludicrous in my mind. And so there's a lot there's a lot there that as far as risk mitigation and things like that we really strive to put as much as we can down, because it keeps our payment low. And if the market should
Yep.
shift, we can still be profitable or break even long term if we needed to reduce rents on that property. We had some vacancies for a longer period of time. It's much easier to cover a $750 mortgage than it is $1,200 if it's vacant.
Right. Yeah. So okay,
So
you mentioned you wouldn't want to go above. Correct me if I'm wrong. You wouldn't want to go above 50 to 60%. What was that, loan to value? What was that in reference to?
yeah, so and that's just mainly loan to value on your primary residence. So
Primary.
one of the
Okay.
biggest things is everybody looks at kind of building that initial nest egg that allows you to purchase your next piece of real estate or your first piece of rental real estate. And a lot of people look at like a HELOC loan, which is a home equity line of credit, that's kind of viewed as a debit card checkbook type thing where you have a set amount, but you're going to have to pay that back. A cash out refinance allows you to refinance that home, pull out the equity in that home that is not taxable income, because it's not an earned income.
Right.
It's equity in an asset that you already own. So the IRS doesn't view that as income. So you get that money tax free, and that allows you to roll it into something else. So not only on a cash out refinance are you getting money tax free, but you get to roll it into something else. And if you pay a little bit more on down payment, you get tax free money that you get to spend, and then you get also a tax deduction. So you're kind of getting a double whammy, and
Hmm.
that's kind of the route that we've gone for the most part.
That's so smart. I love this. It's like
Yeah,
here's it's not free money, but here's some money
sure.
that you kind of technically already own. You're leveraging. It's
Right.
that is the beauty of
Hmm.
using leverage properly. What is
Right.
so okay? The primary risk then, and the reason why you wouldn't want to go over, let's say, a 50 to 60% loan to value is, and let me see if I can explain this. You correct me where my
Yeah.
understanding's off. But let's say, as you mentioned, I think previously, let's say the price of your home drops, you're left with, let's say you've got a $800,000 loan or whatever the number is, and then your
Yeah.
value of the home is now down too low. The risk is like you're still paying, like if you can afford it, you're still paying the same mortgage. But if you can't afford it, now what you owe way more money than the house is worth. So you'd have to sell the house for less than you bought it. Your loan says it's worth,
Right.
and then you're stuck
Yeah.
paying a
Or
huge
you,
bill.
right. Or, you can't get rid of it all, or you
Mm,
got to declare bankruptcy and then the bank takes it and
right.
you get nothing. And so the nice benefit, excuse me, with a buy and hold strategy where you invest a little bit more upfront is I don't really care if I buy something for 500 grand and tomorrow it's worth 200. If I can still make my payment and do it comfortably and still put a couple $100 away for repairs and some profitability on paper for that, I don't care what it's worth as long as that asset is. I don't care what it's worth tomorrow, because you look at the real estate trends, and when there's a dip, it usually pretty much always comes back up. Houses from the
Right.
50s, they're worth a whole lot more than they are. They're worth a whole lot more now. And so I'm looking at things a decade to 30, 40 years from now. And so I don't care what it's worth tomorrow. As long as I can pay the bill with the renters that are in there and squirrel
Mm,
enough away to have a couple months of vacancy, that's just fine with me. So the
yeah.
value of the property doesn't matter much to me as long as I can make the payment, because I know that's going to come back.
As long as you can weather the storm, right? I've heard the analogy of
Exactly.
a video game. It's like don't die. As long as you keep playing, eventually you're gonna win. Just don't
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I mean, there's so many success stories of guys that have done it, and they're like, "Yep, lost everything. I had 30 doors, and I lost everything twice." You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we can't all be Donald Trump, I guess, where it's like, with all that hard work and just that $30 million that Dad gave me, I really made it. I really made it mine after that initial investment.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us are starting from nothing, and we're playing with all our money.
That's okay. That's a perfect segue into this. The one of the things I think about. So as I look at real estate, as I mentioned, I'm not in real estate investing yet, but it's a place I want to get to. And
Sure.
you hear over and over, real estate's a great way to either build or maintain wealth, one of the two, depending on
Hmm.
the viewpoint. But when I think of real estate, it's overwhelming, right? There's a fear
Sure.
aspect there because it's generally a lot of money that you're dealing with. Markets go up and down, as you mentioned. You could be left holding the bag. And I'm curious,
Right.
do you have any strategies, or how do you approach that fear aspect of a large investment? What do you do? I mean, do you turn it into a math equation and just look at the numbers? What do you do on your end to make that not so scary?
Sure. I mean, I think everybody, not necessarily selling everything online, because I don't think everybody's trying to make a buck, trying to teach you how to do that. But I think there's a lot of people that have done a lot of napkin math, and there's a lot of people that napkin math is not near accurate enough, and they're building Excel spreadsheets, and they're kind of Dave Ramsey, where you got to know where every single penny is going. And when you look at it, and I mean, yeah, that's a difficult question. We I think as long as you know, there's a lot of people that say if you can make a profit in the first 5 years, you own it. If you can look back at the 5 year mark and you can show that it's made you some money, that was a good investment. And so you can have a lot of losses and a couple of good years, and that all evens out at 5 years. And so it's really, really scary. But for us, if we can make 150, $200 a door is what is kind of the magic number for us. If I can do some real quick math, blast some stuff out online, and I mean, there's some bigger pockets calculators. Everybody's got a mortgage, renter, equity. Everybody's got their own proprietary calculator, right? And if it shows that I can make a couple $100 a door, man, that's a good investment, and I'll take the risk. I mean, you're not going to win them all, but you miss every single shot you don't take, and so I'm going to take some shots.
You're a fan of The Office?
Yeah.
That that always reminds me of Yeah, I think Michael had that up on a whiteboard, and it's originally attributed to Wayne Gretzky. I think, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky,
Yep,
Michael
exactly.
Scott, secondary
Yep,
secondary quote.
done.
I love that.
Yep,
That's good.
absolutely.
So
Yeah. So, but
another,
I mean,
yeah, keep going. Go. This is beautiful.
yeah. So, I mean, things that I really look for, is, I mean, obviously profitability, but one of the questions you posed me is kind of your team, and there's a lot of people that have coined some terms, and one of the ones that I like is your core four. You've got your realtor, your property management, lawyer, and CPA type thing. I guess is falls under one. Then you've got your general contractor if you're doing the BRRRR method, right, or rehabbing something after you purchase it. As long as you've got a good team, you can ask the right questions to take away some of that fear. And so the way
Mm,
I purchased our homes in Arkansas is I cold called realtors. So I jumped on Redfin, I jumped on realtor.com and Zillow, and every realtor on the face of the planet hates Zillow until it gives them their first lead that they get a sale on, right? And then they're not so mad at Zillow. But I jumped on, and anything that I looked at, at like rentalmeter.com, is a pretty decent little tool, as it turns out, on the western half of the United States that gives you a good idea of what a property will rent for. I was looking at what a mortgage payment would be after a down payment, and property taxes, insurance, and then I was looking at rentalmeter.com, and I was saying, hey, there's maybe 250, $300 a month there. That could be profitable not only in the first 5 years, but that could be profitable from day one. And so I cold called a realtor, and I was like, well, you're the listing agent, and I kind of Google searched the lady and found what office she worked at, and I called her and I said, hey, you've got this. What I've done in the past is I approach the listing agent and I say, I would like you to represent me as well, but at the same time, I would like a discount on the property. And so, in a world where people are offering $20,000, $30,000 over asking, I can, I've got these properties at asking. One was not even on the market, but we got a property at asking because the realtor was making more money. She looked out for both of our interests. There's some ethical things there that she has to do, but she was able to charge less. She charged me a percent less, and she charged the
hmm.
seller a percent less. So she made a percent more than she would have ever made, and the guy gets to keep more money when he sells his house. And so it's kind of a win-win situation. So there's just kind of weird little things, but I cold call realtors, and I found this one in Arkansas, and she's great. And
Hmm.
but the main thing I asked her is, where would you go? And I would shoot
Right.
her a link or something, and she's like, yeah, you might want to look at some crime stats on that one. And I'm like, excellent. You don't need to tell me any more than that. If you're telling
Yep.
me, I can't tell you I wouldn't show you that house, but I can tell you that I would be cautious of crime stats. And the biggest thing I look for is proximity to a hospital, the ratings of schools around that area. And that's one of
Mm-hmm.
the big things I asked her is, if your kids were in grade school still, would you send them to this? Because she's born and raised in the Little Rock, Arkansas area. And so I asked her, if your kids were in school, would you send them to school? And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. This is a cute little
Hmm.
town, and the areas we bought in North Little Rock, not that they're being gentrified, but there's a lot of tech moving into that sector, and some of those guys are liking some of the older houses that are cute and quaint and things. And so I guess in a way it's being gentrified, not by a crime stat, but more of just a modernizing the area. And so she was absolutely crucial in making good decisions on that for sure.
So man, so much good stuff in there. What that was one of the questions.
Yeah,
Obviously, I was going to ask you about the team. How do you find the team? That seems to be a. I mean, obviously, you mentioned you did some of
sure.
your own digging, looking at the listing agent, cold calling. Is that the requirement? Is just getting out of your comfort zone, maybe for someone like me who doesn't like cold calling people? But how do you find those people that make up a good team? And could
Sure.
you repeat the you said the core four? It is
Yeah,
go through that again.
your core four is your legal team. So you've got your CPA and your lawyer. You've got a realtor. You've got your property management if you're doing buy and hold. Obviously not if you're flipping. And then you've got your general contractors. So you've got your guys that are actually doing the work on the house. And as long as you've got a pretty solid core four, even if you've got a couple of those, they've built contacts. If they've been in the industry for more than a couple of years, those guys have built contacts. And the thing that I found more than anything is, cold calling and shotgunning approach and things like that. You can beat your head against the wall for a long time and get nowhere. You know what I mean? You could flip a penny 100 times and still get tails every single time. There's no guarantee that 50-50 is going to go in your favor. But the people that have been in that industry, as long as you ask a good question, you're going to get a good answer. And so the biggest thing for me is there's too many people that are like, I want to purchase a fixer upper. Send me what you've got. And that's not going to cut it, but you throw a really specific answer out there or a really specific question. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house on no less than, a quarter of acre lot built after the year 2000. That's what I'm looking for next. That's pretty specific. And the universe is going to provide. There's going to be somebody that's going to see that and they're going to go like, well, I think my sister's selling something like that. And then you have an off-market deal that never touches the market. You don't ever have to show it. They don't have to worry about it. A realtor's going to get some stuff, their percentage, and they never had to show it once,
Yeah.
or maybe they only have to show it once. So asking people inside of your network already, as long as you're asking good questions, you're gonna get a good answer, I think.
It seems like I love you brought up this idea of kind of working in a way that aligns the incentive of the realtor with your incentives, and it worked
Sure.
out, obviously in your advantage. How do you do that? How did you learn about that specific trick? Maybe is the question I'm after. Like that seems like a great approach in general. Is
Sure.
align incentives with your team as much as you can.
Right.
What are some
Absolutely.
of the are there other tips and tricks like that?
I don't know if I heard that somewhere. I'm a perpetual person that doesn't sleep. I'll listen to podcasts at 3 o'clock in the morning, because my wife goes to bed
Yeah.
pretty early, and it's important to me in our relationships that we go to bed together. And so there's times that I'll sit there for 5 or 6 hours and then do some research and listen to podcasts. And so I have no idea if I heard that anywhere, but it was just kind of one of those things that clicked in my brain of why wouldn't I? Why would I cold call another realtor or Google a realtor just to call them and give them a chance to earn money by showing a house? Why wouldn't I go to them and get a couple percent knocked off and everybody makes more money? And so
Hmm.
yeah, I have no idea if I learned that somewhere or my lizard brain picked it up somewhere half asleep, but yeah, I went for it and it's worked out really well. We've done it on 3 and it's been a fantastic
Hmm.
approach for me.
I like that. It sounds like, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like one of the things that's been successful for you is kind of being obsessed with this. You're, listening to podcasts,
Sure.
reading resources, immersing yourself in real estate has given you some of the
Absolutely.
insights that you need to ask the right questions, look in the right places. Is that a fair, overall summary there of what other people should do? If you're interested, get obsessed.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, I think a good solid addiction is is a great thing that everybody should try. And I'm obviously being facetious, but I think if you're going to be passionate about something, you're going to spend your hard-earned money. You better know what you're talking about, or at least know that you don't know and know how to ask the right questions and seek the right counsel to get a good answer. And I think that segues into kind of your one of your next questions is what are some simple ways to read the market to determine if you should invest versus waiting? And we can go there if you want. Or
Yeah, let's jump into that. That's a
yeah,
great way to segue there.
sure. And I think like you talked about, is immersing yourself in that and really being obsessed with that. You notice trends that others may not. You know what I mean? The current real estate market, in my opinion, it's not healthy. There's
Mm.
been a lot of interest rate hikes and things like that in the recent months that show some not good signs for us. And so we're going to let things cool off a little bit before we start jumping back into some real estate investments. We're approaching some other investments that we're going to work on for the meantime. But I think we're probably going to start picking up into some burr stuff where we're not even going to worry about getting a bank involved. So it doesn't matter what interest rates are to us. We're going to squirrel away some cash and start buying things for cash here pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
So
mean,
what do you look at? What are you looking at to see?
sure,
Obviously you can see what is the 10-year Treasury note or what are interest rates right now.
sure,
What are
yeah.
some of the things you're looking at to determine where that market is?
Sure, yeah, and I mean, obviously, and that's another thing where your core four comes in handy because I can call up the guy that's done the last 5 of our loans, and he's going to pick up my phone call because he's made his commission on the last 5 times he's picked up the phone call. And so I asked
Mm.
him, I'm like, hey man, what are 30-year notes right now? And he's like, boof, I closed one on an investor the other day for 7%. I'm like, dang, that's a far way off from 3.6 that we closed on 6 months ago. And he's like, yep. And I'm like, yeah, cool, thanks. And that tells me a lot in a 30-second phone call. You know what I mean? and there's that. But I mean, if you're really kind of immersed in it, you're looking at, guys on YouTube that are kind of following some even real-time Google statistic trends of what people are searching and things like that are real time before you start getting some of the data that the government compiles or Zillow publishes their stuff. And so you start to kind of see some other stuff. But if you're also keeping your finger on the pulse of the market, you're watching days on market, you're watching, what things are closing as. So not only do I really look at some markets that I want to look at, but I look at what it's sitting on the market. Because I mean, 6 months ago or a year ago, if it came on the market at all, you had 12 people in the first hour that were willing to put an
Yeah.
offer in on that property, sight unseen, for $20,000 to $50,000 over asking in the markets that I was looking at. But now you're seeing price reductions, and I think the biggest thing for me that I brought up to my wife is, I think it was 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, Zillow just showed that there's going to be an open house on this house. That's crazy, right? And she's like, yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. And I'm like, that's weird. And then a couple months later, right? And I mean, it took a couple months before it was like, hey, that just had a $10,000 price reduction on a $385,000 house. Usually your big celebrity houses, they're going to get the big price reductions, right? Bruce Willis's $18 million cabin is probably going to take a pretty fat hit at 10 million. But when you start seeing your $380,000 houses, that's going to be a high-end starter home, or it's a downgrade for somebody that's getting away from $1 million house or even $500,000 house. When you start seeing price reductions and some different concessions there, or it's not closing for 30 grand over asking, those are pretty strong indicators of the health of the market. And that's really what I look at. Is I think you build your own internal data set. I'm not much of an Excel guy. I'm a little more broad stroke than that. And so I just kind of keep mental notes of what I'm seeing and some current trends. And there's some guys like Reventure Consulting on YouTube. He's a little bit of a doom and gloom kind of guy. He's predicted 140 of the last 12 crashes type thing. But he but he's a numbers guy, and he's an analytics guy, and he is looking at inflation adjusted numbers, and he's like, yep, that's 2%. Last time we had 2% was 10 years ago, or yada yada yada. And so
Hmm.
it's good to just, I've never complained about having too much information.
For sure. So it sounds like, so if you see some of those trends
Sure.
trending downwards, that's a good time to sit it out, right? Wait on the sidelines. What do you look for before it starts getting too hot then? Is there a good kind of middle ground where it's like, hey, this is the time?
Sure. I think interest rates for us
Yeah.
was a really strong driver for us. We looked and we're like, interest rates are 2%, and we got an investment loan at 3.2%. We're like, that's crazy. Even if the projected, the ideal dream rate that the Fed looks for is targeted inflation is what, 3 to 4% or whatever. And it's like, even if we can borrow that money and break even on inflation, we're still making money. We're still getting to depreciate that asset. There's a lot there. We benefit a whole lot more than borrowing money that's offset by inflation. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and you kind of have to find your own risk tolerance and your I guess not necessarily fortune favors the bold, but you got to find when you're ready. So what works for me isn't going to work for everybody, because I'm
Sure.
I am probably the polar opposite of risk averse. I'm pretty willing to take some pretty strong risks. So
Let's jump in there. Let's do
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, because one of the best advice my father-in-law gave me is he's like, think of the worst thing that's ever going to happen. And we have we have a personal friendship outside of this. Is we have a little class CRV. It's a U-Haul basically with a small shower and a sink and a couple of beds. And the worst case scenario I can imagine is I lose absolutely everything, and I've got to live in that for 2 months. Okay, you know what I mean? It's paid off.
Let's go camping.
Let's go for it. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that have gone camping when they became homeless, and so that doesn't scare me. I've slept in the dirt a whole lot in my life in the military and camping, and sleeping in a camper in a campground that's costing me a couple bucks a night. If that's the worst that can happen to me, okay, I'll take the risk.
You can handle that.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. That's there's a lot to be gained from that kind of perspective, I think.
Sure.
And living through some of those hard experiences in your past and saying, hey, we can do
Yeah.
this. We're
Yeah.
fine.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. One of the phrases, there's someone I follow on the internet, the old internet, that he's got a kind of a catchphrase that says, "Get money by income."
Okay.
And the broader idea is, at some point you need money coming in to
Sure.
invest. Are there recommendations you can give, or is it just a matter of, hey, get a good job, get a side hustle, do whatever you can to kind of scrape your way to get enough of a down payment to get into real estate? What's your perspective on an idea like that? So everybody's got to start
Sure.
somewhere, and it does require some capital to get into something like real estate.
Right.
What would you advise someone who's in a position where there's not a lot coming in yet? Is step one, get money before you can jump into real estate?
Absolutely. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody, um, I mean, short of your 1 in a million, lucky star type guys that's going to walk into a meeting and be able to convince somebody to really give them, $10 million to buy a 400 door apartment complex or something. But I remember when I purchased my first house, I was working a full-time job. I was in the National Guard, so I was doing my 1 weekend a month. I was picking up extra orders and things like that when I could. I was helping a food distribution warehouse set up their security program, and I was working at a Harmon's grocery store in downtown Salt Lake, helping them with security. So I had a full-time job, I was in the military, and I had a couple of part-time jobs. And you got to hustle. You got to squirrel the cash away. You got to hide it in a mattress or an ammo can for a little while, and then you get to the point where you can start leveraging that. And I mean, that's what I did. I worked for a long time, a lot of late nights and a lot of taking a nap in a car before you go back into job number three to do that on top of going to college at the same time. So yeah, I think you really do. I mean, there's a lot of people that say it must be nice. I ran into that when we first moved down to Las Vegas. We're in a pretty nice neighborhood, and I ran into a preventative radiologist that worked for the VA, and he was like, he's looking at this is what he's built his life, and he's like, man, business must be pretty good if this is your second home. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird. At 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing the books on our third business, there's not many lights on in houses for people that are getting it. And he had absolutely nothing to say back to that. You know what I mean? And I still talk to the guy and we're good friends, but it was a pretty immediate way to say, I don't bump into you at 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing the
Mm,
books on the third business, or, the library and the gym is not packed at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's packed for 6 weeks
man,
after the first of the year, but not at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not. So you got to hustle. You got to really, really want
what man, that is. Whew, I'm saving that one. That's an inspirational
it.
1 minute clip there. That was incredible, and that's man. It's exactly true though. That's the thing, is no one
Yeah.
sees the years of effort that you've put in to get to this point. It's easy.
Yep.
It'd be easy to listen to the first half of this conversation and be like, oh, he had a lot of money. Wife's got a great job. Easy.
Sure.
What a great life he
Right.
lives. But that of, hey, you didn't see the sweat, blood, and tears I put in before all that to get,
Right.
man, I love
Yeah.
that. That's good stuff. Thank you for
Yeah. Yeah.
sharing
I
that,
mean,
man.
kind of yeah, sure. Yeah. And I mean, because I mean, I mean, it's real. It's what I'm passionate about, and I mean, I have nice things because I work for them, and, I'll never take them for granted, but I could also give them up in a heartbeat and go right back to the grind. I talk to my wife about it all the time. Like, I can never, ever let my family go hungry. I don't care if I have to push carts at two different grocery stores coming up to Christmas to make sure my kid has a good Christmas. That's what's going to
Mm.
happen. And so there's a lot of people, you're in control of that. And, there's a lot of hours in the day. You need a whole lot less sleep than you think you do when it's time to really
Right,
grind.
right. Yeah, when the tough gets going, or when the tough. What's that phrase?
Right. Yeah,
When things
exactly.
get tough, the tough get going.
When the Yeah,
Something
exactly.
like that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you look at like Jocko, I mean, I think you and I have talked about Jocko a couple of times.
Yeah,
And, his phrase is good,
right. I
right?
love it.
He's like, didn't get the job, good. You got punched in the face, you got tapped out, good. Gives
Opportunity.
you a little motivation
Yeah,
to, yeah,
yeah.
to train harder.
Hmm.
Now you found your weak spot.
Fix it. Man,
So,
that's good. Yeah,
it's good.
yeah.
Yeah. Adversity is good. It's a good teacher.
That's good stuff. So you've talked
Yeah, for
about you've
sure.
talked about some of the tax benefits. You've talked about house hacking and the need for a team and finding those people. As far as other tips and tricks, one of the things that my colleague Levi wanted me to ask about is, and one of the things he's looking at is what sorts of things can you do with your own property that are going to increase the value that could then, you talk about your history with contracting and things like that, but what are some of those things that you can do to
Sure.
increase the value of your own property? Is that a good strategy to try to increase work on your own property, build up some value there so that you can get more of a cash out. Have you explored any of that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's right now where interest rates are going crazy, and you know what I mean. You go from a doom and gloom economist where he's like the market's in free fall, we're all going to die, and fire everywhere. To other people that are like, we're fine, everything is fine. This is going to correct itself, and it's transitory,
Mm.
right? So, I think improving your current situation. There's a term in the military of a foxhole is something where you build it, you dig your hole, and that's where you're going to survive. And there's a term where it says, improve your fighting position or your foxhole every single day.
Mm.
There's different things, there's ways you build that little structure, and you can improve it every single day. You can make a hole a little bit bigger, you can make your steps a little more cleaner, a little more cleaner. I can speak English. You can do small things that make a big difference in the long term. And I think one of my good friends was able to purchase a home in Utah, and he got it with an unfinished basement. He's like, man, what should I do? And I said, the biggest thing you could do right now is finish your basement. I don't care if you buy one 2x4 at a time or a roll of insulation, or if you don't have the money, watch a YouTube show on how to frame a basement, or how to rough in plumbing, or how to do this or how to do that. Knowledge is just as powerful as money. And I told him the biggest thing you could ever do right now is refinish your basement, because it gives you and your growing family quality of life for the next couple of years, if this market stabilizes in the next 6 months, or if it takes a couple of years, or unfortunately the worst case scenario happens and it all crashes and we've got another 2008, where we go from 07, 08 to 2013, when things hit the lower plateau before things started to come back up again. If that guy were to spend a couple $100 a paycheck and finish his basement, he's going to double the square footage of his house. He's going to learn a new skill. He's going to become intimately more aware of his house. He's going to sweat. He's going to, pour blood, sweat, and tears in that. So he's getting physically in shape. He's getting value in his home. He's going to get more out of his home. I think improving the quality of your house within reason is the best thing that anybody can do right now.
It strikes me as a perfect opportunity. If you don't have, let's say, we can make time, we can sleep less. You could get another job. Those other
Sure.
methods of getting more money so you can buy more income, or increase the value. Like increase the value of your home so that you can refi out for more money.
Right.
There's more money for you without having to get another job.
Absolutely.
As you mentioned, you learn another skill. There's so many benefits to doing something like that. That's something I don't know that a lot of people think of that off the top, but there's a great way to get some more money if you're looking to get into real estate. Develop the value of your own home, develop your skills at the same time, and there you go. That's pretty.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of the Jocko Good approach, right? Of like, oh, interest rates are crap. Can't buy what you want. Good. Work on what you've got.
Yeah.
And that's my wife and I's biggest goal for 2022 is not necessarily expand as fast as we can, but refine what we've got. We've forged the blade, and now it's time to put the edge on it. And so our biggest goal is to refine what we've got, trim the fat, and really optimize what we've built so quickly. And I think that's going to pay dividends for a long time.
Yeah. Man, good stuff. So a few other questions, tips and tricks, if you don't mind. You have a few more minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Single family versus multifamily. How do you think through that?
We've obviously got both. We talked a little bit about how you have a little bit higher of a turnover in multifamily,
Yeah.
because people just view that as not a home. That's an apartment, and that's all it ever will be. And that's totally fine. You know what I mean? There's fast cars, there's cars that, go over rocks. There's not every shoe is going to do every single thing. So I think diversification is the key, and that's why we really started looking out of state. Is because if I can make $200 a door, right? Say that's some arbitrary number, is there's a little bit more to it, but at the end of it, if all the bills are paid and I can put $200 a month into an account, if I can do that on a house that I can get for $139,000 in North Little Rock, Arkansas, if I get $200 a door a month on that, why wouldn't I do that when I'm also shooting to make $200 a door on something that's $500,000, because my down payment's, $39,000 versus, $100,000 to put $25,000 or to put 25% down on a $500,000 property. So
Right.
if I can get my number to shoot for $200 a door, why wouldn't I do that on 130,000 or 139,000 versus 500,000? So I think diversification is the biggest thing, and not all the markets buy in a tech hub, absolutely, but then also buy in a blue collar neighborhood where it's going to be construction guys that are going to do what they need to do to provide for their family. And
Mhm.
I think diversification is probably your biggest thing for there.
That's smart. Always smart. Anytime you're looking at investments of any kind, is have
Sure.
multiple spoons in the fire, knives in the what's
Right.
man.
Yeah.
I'm butchering the sayings here today, but
Yeah.
you get the
Irons in
idea.
the fire,
There
right?
it
Is what
is.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah.
As far as, so you mentioned some in-state, out-of-state. You mentioned the book. I think Mike Burke. I think it was the
Yeah.
out-of-state thing.
I'll have to look. I had it written down, and obviously can't find
Is
that now.
there Are there other things you're looking at as far as which states to invest in? Are you looking at just the flat cost of homes, like the median home price? Are you looking at that plus, can I find a home with a good school district? Is it all of the above, or are there
Sure.
certain factors that really jump out to you for which states to invest in?
Yeah, I mean, home price, obviously, when it comes down to it, you'd love to shop at the mom and pop place until it becomes double what you get at, a product from Lowe's. You know what I mean? That there's a whole lot of buying from that mom and pop location to support local before it just isn't, you just can't justify it. But I think it's just kind of everything, and you kind of got to go with your gut. You've got to be immersed in it enough. You've got to be almost obsessed with it enough that you kind of develop a gut feeling. And I think I trust that a whole lot more than I trust a lot of things in my life. And gut feeling is pretty important. And
Mm,
so I'll look at kind of collectively everything. And the realtor in Arkansas was the one that pushed me. She said, "Look, schools aren't great because these are older homes, and it's older people that live there. It's starting to transition to younger people that are moving to this area for tech. They haven't started their family yet, so it's either old people or young people with no kids. So the schools are not good. But I'm telling you, I've lived here my whole life, and that place is going to be good in 15 years or
mm,
5 years." And so I walked away, and I didn't even look at the schools in that area because she said, "This area is growing. There's little hipster coffee barista places right around the corner. In fact, they just opened up another one next week. This is showing some strong growth. I've lived here for a long time. I trusted that, and I went for it." And so I think your gut feeling is important, but then you also got to build enough rapport in that core four that you trust their opinions as well.
yeah, it sounds like an educated gut feeling is what's required.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
What do they call it? I always called it a swag. I guess a scientific wild ass gas. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
I
So,
like that. That's
but
good.
yeah, yeah. So
Beautiful. So, last question for me, and I'm curious: Are there?
sure.
We'll put this in the show notes. You mentioned some books. What are some of the resources you would direct people to if they're looking to learn more about how to get involved in real estate?
Sure. I mean, I'm one of those guys. I'm always on the move. I've got headphones in all the time, and so I paid $11 or $12 a month or something like that for YouTube, and I started listening to Ken McElroy and Robert Kiyosaki and those guys, the bigger pockets guys that are putting some of their podcasts on YouTube and things. All of that's free. You can do so much for free right now, or a very little cost. You know what I mean? I didn't have enough patience to listen to the ads, and I wanted to be able to turn my phone off on YouTube and turn the screen off and not skip around. So I paid $11 a month, but I just listened to a lot of that. And there's a lot of biggerpockets.com is a really great resource of some guys that are really doing some cool stuff, and they've built a really impressive team of people with some really vast knowledge. Ken McElroy and Robert Kiyosaki, they've teamed up, and they've got a pretty big outfit going there, and they produce a lot of really good information. There's a lot of free out there before you need to spend the $30,000 to
Hmm.
to
Join
to
somebody's
buy into someone's
mastermind.
program. Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's something I've never done, and I'd much rather. I learned really early on that if a contractor is going to cost you $50,000 to do something, I can screw it up twice before I get it right the third time, and probably still come under the $50,000 mark. So, and I get skills to not screw it up the next time.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, if I can do a bathroom for 10, 12 grand, um, yeah, I'm going to do that a couple of times. I'm going to do it once, screw it up, and then do it right the next time, and probably still be money ahead.
Yeah. Man.
So, but don't be
Get
afraid
you,
to fail.
yeah,
It's,
roll your
yeah.
sleeves up, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, man, there's been a ton of value in this, Andrew. I'm so appreciative that you took the time to talk to me and our
Oh,
listeners. So
absolutely.
thank you so much. Is there anything else
No,
that
I
you would?
appreciate you having me.
Oh man, we got to do this again with more
100%.
information. Hopefully, once I'm in real estate, my buddy Levi, he's going to be asking some questions too. But anything that you would like
Totally.
to throw out there as far as one of the main keys that we always try to focus on is just start. That's one of the biggest hindrances to progress is
Absolutely.
people sit on the sidelines so much. Maybe now's not the time, but what
Yep.
anything else you would add in for people who are looking at this but just need that extra little boost to start?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is motivation doesn't ever come first. Usually everybody's like, man, I'm just waiting to get a little motivation, and then once I'm motivated, I'll go to the gym. And it's never happened. Never happened for me. And the guys that do the motivational videos, they're like, nope, you got to get up.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get up when there's nobody else in the gym. You got to get up. It doesn't matter if you walk to the end of the mailbox one more time tomorrow. As long as you're doing something, you got to act. And then the motivation happens. That's when the chemicals start changing in your body and the synapses start developing in different ways in your brain. And after action is when the motivation comes. And I think the biggest things, like you just said, roll your sleeves up, just do something rather than have paralysis by analysis, right?
Yep.
Where you're evaluating things until you talk yourself completely out of it. Do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You live in a U-Haul truck for a couple of weeks, or you got to move back into your mom's basement. Dang it. There's been a lot of people that did it.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people that still have to do it, but it's not the end of the world. You can swallow your pride and you're going to miss all the shots you don't take.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Andrew, this has been awesome. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey,
And thanks for all the
yeah.
wisdom you've imparted.
No, I really appreciate you having me. And it's been super fun and I look forward to doing it again.
Sounds good. All right. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Take care. Yep.
All right.
Bye-bye.